and you'll be able to see my full face. So my name is JP. That's short for Juan Pablo. I am from Chile. So it's a very different place than here. Today we will be talking about, oh, I will put a timer. So I love to speak. So there you go, 15 minutes. We will be splitting this, and actually just for better dynamic of this session, I will mute everybody right now. So then at the end, we can just start, uh, talking about. So quickly here, I'll go ahead and
It's banned.
mute all. Good. Mute all. Great. So I think this will be a better way so you have a better understanding of what I'm saying. So we today will be talking about something that we decide to call as dish garden. There are so many ways that you can call this. It's going to be a planter with some lovely house plants. This is going to be a great way to have plants that we probably haven't tried before. I love making these little arrangements of little plants that we can grow for a whole season. And then later on, these plants will take over in different ways and speeds and shapes. And then we can get somehow attached to them. And we can, for example, take them out of here and put them in their own pot. So it's like a great way. I really enjoy every time that I'm like walking around to try different recipes. So then you get to enjoy for a whole season seeing how they grow and why not. So just to start, we will be talking about each individual one. So first one, it's gonna be the polka dot. This is a hypoesis, and you guys receive all of these plants. If I'm not, yeah, you got it. So hypoesis, they come in so many different colors. The common name for them is polka dot because they have very lovely reds, and it's actually a plant that travels really good until Christmas. You know, like it's very much of a as a centerpiece for like later in the season. It can potentially grow really tall. We've seen them growing like probably like closer to like 12-inch, maybe taller. So we will be talking about how to prune them as well, because sometimes if you see they have many different growth all around, and it would be a matter of like clipping them, and I'll just demonstrate that. It's very simple. You just find whatever is out of shape, or this one is very open this way. So just go ahead and clip them honestly wherever. So I'll do that one. And then you got a piece of a plant here that potentially you can remove the bottom leaves of these, and you can let it sit in water uh, until it grows new roots. And then you can potentially have a new plant, or you can just get rid of it. Like sometimes we have just reduced space, and like we don't need a whole lot of plants. So trimming it to keep it in shape, it's always a good idea. Um, all the plants that you guys receive are great for many reasons. They can adapt to different kinds of light, medium to low light. So we understand that a lot of times the big issue in houseplants is that you don't have a lot of window space, or sometimes you don't have a lot of sunlight coming from a south facing or a west facing, meaning afternoon sun that gets really hot. And actually, you have like sometimes north facing or east that is morning light. So a lot of times, it's a struggle to have plants that can take that sun. All of the plants that you guys got today are going to be good for medium to low light. They don't get too hurt if you bring them to a brighter spot. Just keep an eye, because sometimes windows can be really hot and warm. So keep them away from very bright sun, like a few feet away from the window, or maybe tuck it in near the window, but not direct under, and you should be good. So We talk about the polka dot. Now let's move to the other color. This is the waffle plant. Waffle plant is a very lovely plant that it has a very vibrant dark color. We love growing these guys just because of the foliage. They have a very small flower. It's a white, tiny little flower. Probably not the most, it's not a beautiful petunia or, you know, like nothing showy as a hibiscus. It's just a very little guy. And this plant, just like the polka dot, also can grow very long. You can already see in this one, for example, that has some like runners. So it's like a good spiller coming out of the pot. So think about putting it on its side and probably cascading out of your table, wherever you want to put this. And again, it potentially can get very big. So you can always, and I have a kind of like a bigger example here, they can get too long. And if that ever happens, again, just grab your clippers or any kind of cutting tool. And something interesting in this plant is that you will see that they already have some roots. They put like roots on the air. And whenever that happens, it's just, you just remove the leaves and you have a very clean tip with no leaves, just the roots. Keep them in water, and you can keep them in a glass of water for like quite a long time actually, just waiting for new roots to grow until you have a nice bigger container, or again, just can get rid of it. I love plants and I always feel that I need to keep them and I need to like give them to my friends and propagate them and why not, but it's up to you guys. You can do whatever you want with the more additional plants. Okay, different plant. This one is a very, I think you have this one is in a little bit smaller size, but it's the same concept. This one is a great house plant. It's a type of peperomia. Peperomia comes in all different shapes and colors and sizes. Something like this will get very nice and tall, potentially like this. They are actually called the mini rubber tree plant because they are very thick and shining. They do have a flower, believe it or not. That structure there is their flower. A lot of people think that it's not very attractive. So you can always go ahead and clip it and cut it, you know, like that, and that's gone. Or you can keep it there and that can stay there. It's a very interesting plant, very hardy. You can see the stems are very thick. The leaves also are very thick.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know what, JP, we don't have that plant, but one kind of similar. Katie's holding, Katie, can you hold your plant up there?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or do you have it? No, that's,
yeah.
Oh, no, there's another one, Katie. Katie, your microphone's off. Anyway.
Maybe it's a different type of peperomia then.
Yeah, I think it's a little bigger
one.
Julie, the other one is the philodendron.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the other one is this one.
This one
okay,
says,
yeah.
This one says peperomia, and it has
and you got this one. Yeah,
okay.
It's just more delicate.
Yes.
It's
Thanks, Katie.
Proceed.
It's this one.
Yes.
Very lovely. Okay, just to make this, and there's not enough noise, I'll go ahead and mute them all again. Mute all. Good. This is just because we've seen in the past that if we're talking all together, it kind of breaks. So yeah, same peperomia, same concept, flowers, leaves, very cool plant. They potentially can get very nice and full to the point that later in the season, you can potentially, if you really like the grow, just put it in its own pot and you know, enjoy the growth of it by itself. It's very, very nice and super hardy. It's a type of succulent. It's a succulent that actually belongs to the rainforest, so they can take more water than other plants. So really good element for that, for our pot. And then the last one is a philodendron. This is the cordatum philodendron. Very lovely heart-shaped leaves, which are very nice. These, I love philodendrons. They come in all shapes and sizes and why not? And they are super easy to propagate. Again, I love propagating plants. So I like to cut them, you know, and you can keep them for in like a water glass, and you can keep it there just as decoration, and they can last for many months. I actually have seen them growing like for years in just one little cup with water, just making sure to refill it. I have behind me a hanging basket of that philodendron. Potentially, this guy can be with you for a very long time. They can grow into very nice and full plants. It's the same thing. It's a great hanging plant because it has these long stems that like to travel all the way down. And this is a little fun fact. In reality, in their natural environments, this guy actually grow under trees and they go up instead of down. And when they go up over the tree bark and like all, think about like tropical countries, you know, like there's so many things hanging out of trees. When the leaves go up, they actually get bigger and bigger and bigger. When you have hanging plants, the leaves get a little bit smaller towards the bottom. It's all about like hormone things in plants that are like kind of like a boring aspect, but the leaves go really very lovely when they go up. And what's like a kind of like a way to bring them up is actually have a little example here in totems. So this is a pole made out of coconut fiber. You can go so many ways. Last year I used my Christmas tree to make this. So, and when the plants, you can train them going up. This is a different type, of course. The leaves get very nice, and potentially you can bring these all the way near a window and they will frame your window going up, and it honestly makes your house look like a jungle. It's very, very fun. And again, very easy to propagate it. It's very fun. So we talk about the 4 plants that we'll be putting in. Again, all of them very easy to grow. And in terms of humidity, okay, so like we described them. Now, how do we take care of them? So we will be putting them all together in a pot. They have very similar care. We talk about the light. They can be in a bright light, not direct. They can take very low light. Make sure that you can rotate your pot every once in a while, because that helps to like give them a little bit of a vacation to the plants, you know, like facing back, and then this guy will be more exposed to the sun. I would say maybe like once every 2 weeks. You will forget, maybe every once per month. It's just a matter so the plant grows evenly and the color stays very even. You potentially can see that in the dark foliage, they will get a little bit lighter color, not that intense, because to get this red, very dense red, you need a lot of sunlight. If it doesn't get enough, it potentially can fade into like pinks, which is very pretty as well, but rotated, and that always helps. So good, we complete 15 minutes. So we talk about that. Let's get to planting. You guys decide if you want to do this with me, or later on you can do it by yourself. It's gonna be very simple. So let's talk about the container that we got. So it's a very nice tin container, has no holes, and that can be concerning or not. Every single container, it's gonna be a good container if you treat it properly. I always think my grandma used to grow basil in her like teapots. There's so many ways that you can make things work just by knowing what you are doing. So you can definitely poke holes. You don't have to. Since we are having this as a tabletop, or we don't want to make a mess, our furniture potentially can get ruined by having a pot like this. So if you, I mean, the way that we are doing this is not with holes. So you guys got a little bag of charcoal. And it's very interesting because it's like, okay, so this is, I don't know if you're very familiar with charcoal. It's a very commonly used product in horticulture. And it's not the charcoal that you use for grilling. This is activated charcoal. The reason why we put these in the bottom of our planters is so they have, I will do another 15 minutes just to be in track. Good. So the reason we put this is because charcoal has a very good property on absorbing excess water and also absorbing some smells. So potentially, if we are over watering these, we will talk about watering later on, these will keep our plants healthy, and it will keep the, like back in the old days, we used to put gravels or pebbles under the pots. This is the real deal because pebbles actually, it gets really heavy. And potentially you want to keep a bottom line of excess water away from the roots, because if the roots of the plant that it will grow all the way down in the pot are sitting in water, our plants will start getting sick because they can potentially start rotting and they will not like wet feet. Charcoal will take care of that. So first thing is gonna be making you guys have like a little baggie, dump it all inside of your pot, and that will give you somewhat of an even layer. It doesn't have to be all the way. Just being there, it's doing its thing. So first layer done. That's gonna be a nice charcoal layer, and that will keep us nice and good. Then you guys receive a bag of potting mix. We will be careful with how much we put because the plants that we chose are gonna have their own soil. So we will do just a thin layer of, sometimes these easy opens are not that easy. So it's a great bag that I always like to have around because you always have different projects going on. So get it open. That's a nice challenge. I'll fix my. So we will do probably an inch of soil all the way in the bottom over that charcoal. Don't worry if it gets kind of like mixed up. The soil that we are using, I'm working in a greenhouse, by the way, and it feels like a sauna. It's really nice. So this is an all-purpose potting mix. It's great for a lot of our houseplants. Good to have it around all the time. Comes in a small bag, so you don't make such a big mess of carrying big bags and whatnot. We will set up a layer of that soil, probably an inch and a half, and we will start setting up our plants. When we design, and this is like a nice general rule, we want 3 elements. And we talked about this last week as well with our pollinator pot. We want something tall, we want fillers, and we want spillers. So from the 4 plants that we got, no matter if you got the red one or the green one, these will be definitely our tall elements. Maybe now they are not that tall, but they will get there. Then we have these 2 plants that are definitely our spillers. They go out of the pot. So think about that. And the polka dot, the red one, is also a taller accent. So you have 2 talls and 2 coming down. So then you get to see how your pot is gonna look. You want the 2 tall ones towards the back and the other ones toward the front. Now, if you happen to have these in the middle of your table, then go ahead and put them in a very nice, even way that your 2 talls can be in the middle and the other 2 spillers can be in the opposite sides. Up to you, it will not make a big difference. This pot has a line where the 2 tin that would fold connects. Think about that. Sometimes you don't want to see that line in front of you, so that can be in the back or somewhere covered by the spillers. So first thing, I always like to start with my tall elements. We will take the tall plant and we will put it in one corner. I mean, it's a circle, there's no corners, but toward like one side, okay? If you realize that your ground level is too high, then you probably put too much soil. So you can like dig it in a little bit and make sure that you have something like 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of exposed soil from the border of the pot, okay? So we got that in. We are just putting plants in. We will fill the soil later on. So that's definitely, I want to bring these lower so you guys get to see what I'm doing. One plant there in the corner. I'm designing these as the back of my, I have a back and a front, okay? So that's the back. I'll put the red polka dot. I have too many elements here in the camera. The polka dot is also a taller one, so we want to bring this next to the other one towards the back, okay? So side by the other. Think about the round pot as a square now. So in one corner, we have the tall one grain and then the other. Now, we have our philodendron. And the philodendron, again, we will take it out of the pot and we will put it in the front. And I always, just for like a matter of proportions, likes to put similar colors in opposite directions. So if I'm dividing this circle in 4, I'm doing my green opposite with my green. And then my red polka dot, it's gonna be in the opposite direction of the waffle plant. So hopefully this is very clear. Your 2 greens are opposite, your 2 reds are opposite. So that looks a lot more pleasant than having them like side by side, or why not? And again, this is not a rule. You can do the way that you want. Just having them is gonna be great. The goal of this is that they grow and mix it up in between them. So at some point it will be just a big one wonderful thing. Just now we are putting it together. So now, very, very carefully, we'll be filling up with the soil in between the roots, because we don't want to have exposed roots out there, because they will, number one, dry out, and then the best growth, successful process is going to be by covering the roots. We don't have a scoop, but we have empty pots. Empty pots are great little spoons or scoops, and we don't make a mess. So very, very gentle, we will be putting this soil in between the plants. You know, you just bring the leaves up and you start filling up the soil. We don't want to go all the way up to the borders, because you also receive sheet moss, right? The moss will cover the whole layer of this, so it looks even prettier. So think about that. You don't want to go all the way up. And very slowly, just carefully. And this is where I'll go a little bit faster, but you guys can take your nice time, and later on you can just follow me up. I'll try to be fast. It can be a little bit messy, but should be all right. Since I'm doing this, we will be talking about the soil that we're adding. It's an organic soil, and it's very much a ready to go substrate. You don't need to put any fertilizer to this, because it already has the good stuff that your plants need. And kind of like, I'm thinking that I might be using most of the soil in this project. So, and I keep talking about soil, and not dirt. uh, there's whatever you want to call it. Soil is like the proper way to call the substrate that you are using to grow plants in. Dirt, it's probably what's, in dirty places. um, so I like to call it soil. And you always can, we're working on dry, by the way, right? We can see that the substrate is dry. We don't want to be working with wet soil, because if it's too wet, it potentially can be too saturated and the plants will not enjoy a very muddy situation. So almost ready over here. All my roots are not exposed. I don't see any roots right now. And I will gently, with my tips, the tips of my finger, I will be pressing down. Of course, each plant has its own beautiful side towards the front. So it looks like this right now. You can always, if you don't have it now, it's okay. Water just a little bit, so you make sure that the soil will be a little bit saturated. Since the soil that we were working on was dry, we will be putting some water down. And I want to be very generous. Of course, when I say very generous, I mean probably a cup of water all over. So this situation will be very much saturated. And just to finish this up, we will be putting sheet moss. Now, if you have worked with sheet moss, and maybe this is like, we will put a little bit of attention here. Maybe we can disconnect from whatever you're doing so we pay attention to this. Sheet moss is a great way to make things pretty. You can always break this apart into smaller chunks just by tearing it apart, okay? And you will be putting around each plant, little by little. You can spend most of your days doing this. You will tear apart, and over the soil and around the plants, I will make these. Of course, the green side up, and then there's a brown. The moss, this is dehydrated moss, kind of like the ones that grow in gardens. We will be covering and somehow kind of like coming out a little bit on the edges. Go creative and go very much the way that you want to do it. But you can have like edges that are not aligned, and that again, you will put it, you will like lift the plants like that, and you cover the edges and press down. If it's too big, you can always break it apart and go smaller. Hopefully everybody can see what I'm doing. And then you can just accommodate your plants, like kind of like more of a natural growth. And this is gonna be the way that we will finish our pot. With this sheet moss, we will cover every single exposed soil. So this, number one, will make it very lovely. Number two, will be helping whenever we are watering our pot, we will not be actually watering over soil. So then when we put the water, all the soil makes a giant mess over your table. This will actually act as a mulch, like when it rains and your plants get the mulch actually helps the erosion. So, and also it will keep the water on the plant. So it's an all around great way. I always make sure to have moss around because, it helped for so many reasons. So in bigger sections that you don't have plants, you can always put more soil. It's okay, and I always like to do that if the moss sometimes like pick out, like comes out of the pot. It looks a little bit more kind of like organic. And I went all around, and then I'll go with like a bigger section in the middle. Again, be very gentle with the plants and the leaves nearby. And I'm pretty much ready here. So that's all covered. You guys have done a very lovely pot right now. Of course, the ones that are hanging are going to be our front, and the ones that are going to be taller is going to be our back. Now, what if you want to do this in a different way? You can always play around. And again, these making dish gardens or bowl garden plant, it's a great way to test plants that you want to grow for future. So great, we just completed more 15 minutes. So we just finished the pod. Great, some of them are looking great. I can see pictures. And you will get into knowing the growth of each one of those. The way that you want to water these gonna be with a nice, gentle, I would say, depending on your conditions, every single house, it's different. If it's in a brighter window, you will have to grow more often. You'll have to water more often. You will see that the waffle plant, this purple one, is gonna be the first one to dry out, always. So that will be a good indicator. Okay, it's time to water. And a lot of times, I would say in your pot, just water the one, you know, like water that side. And then you can keep, for example, the peperomia a little bit kind of like alone in that corner, because it's a succulent. It's full of water. It will not rot, but it will be all right. Keep an eye, and it will probably take you like a couple of weeks to know how much water you need. I always suggest to start cup by cup. So then you will get the master of like, okay, for this thing, I need 2 cups of water every 5 days, or why not? And then later on, the season will keep changing, you know. Winter's coming up, unfortunately. And things change during winter. Our houses get warmer and the light is different. So you will also have to adapt to those days, how much water they will need. Hopefully we all had fun. I did at least. And we will open the mics right now. If you have any questions of any, I think I cover most of the things. We talk about propagation. When all of these things get very big, we will just trim them. Or if you think maybe next spring you are done with this pot and you just want to break it apart and have each plant in its own pot and try something else there, we have a wonderful selection of terrarium plants, like smaller size, that you can always try and see how you like or not. And or sometimes you just want to be done with some plants, you know, like, oh, this guy keeps drying out, I'm done with it. And you can just chop it down, remove it, put something else there. It's up to you. You should be owning it, and life is too short for something that you don't enjoy. So always try to enjoy and appreciate all the plants that you have. So if you have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself.
I have a question, JP. Is the polka dot plant the same as a coleus?
Very similar, right? But it's not a coleus.
Okay.
It's actually, coleus is an annual plant. So
Okay.
after the one season, they will be done. This
Okay.
guy is it's a house plant, so it should last with us for quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was fun. I like it. I like it.
Very fun.
I think you need to
Lovely.
unmute.
Oh, lovely. Wow.
Nice. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
Good.
Unmute,
right.
Dorothea. I think you had a question or something. Can you unmute?
She hasn't unmuted.
I'm muted.
You're still muted.
Okay.
I'm muted. You are unmuted by host.
I am here.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Hello.
he muted me.
Yes.
Hi there. Yeah.
Hi.
What about using a moisture meter? I have a lot of plants in my place, and I use a moisture meter because there I feel safer.
Right. That's a great way. You know, a lot of times those devices are really good ideas if you have them around. Since we have 4 plants in the same container, you'll have probably a little bit of a very messy measurement. You know what I mean? Like some of them will be wet, the other one.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on the number or whatever, you know, like section you're using to water, because it might give you wrong information. Those devices are always good. Fingers are always, you know, like, oh, it's dry.
Well, I was just wondering because of the moss, whether the thing even goes through the moss.
Right. So the water will definitely go through the moss, and the moss will be like
moisture meter.
Oh, I see. So, you know, you can always like dig a little hole and put it there in between. Maybe, again, do it on each plant specifically because they might, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody
By
else?
the way, in my my pollinator plant, I had a bee up here yesterday up on the 5th floor.
Yay! Yeah, isn't that fun to see how, like, you know, you were not expecting that, and
yeah, I didn't know they came up this high.
Right. Yeah. Good. Anybody else? I don't want to take too much time, so we should be wrapping up. Anybody else?
I just wanted to tell you that I split some plants and went into your, you know, into Sunnyside, and I don't know how anybody could have been nicer than the folks that helped me there.
Nice.
But then you weren't there, so they really looked good.
Yeah.
But no, thank you. And they were helpful on how to split some plants. I had I brought in a picture of an aloe plant that had about 8 babies.
Oh, wow.
And you know how to dig those out and not hurt the roots too much, although they're pretty hardy.
Super hardy. Yep.
So,
Nice. And you
but
can
they were
see
just
how,
so
like,
nice about it. And told me what kind of soil to use, and I appreciate it.
Nice. Okay, that's great. That's great to know. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Oh, and we also got advice from you last time about the orchids, and we've replanted a whole bunch of orchids. So we'll see how that goes.
That's great. That's great. I don't know if you got a chance to see the orchids that we just got.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I need to show you guys.
Yeah.
Stop. I'll be right back. It's right here. Okay, so we got 2 kinds. Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Good. So we got oncidiums. That oncidiums are also called like the dancing ladies because each flower is like a lady holding a skirt. They are just so lovely. Beautiful yellow. It can last for so many weeks blooming. And then look at this. So pretty. This one is a dendrobium. Very easy to grow. And I mean, look, it's just what we need for this time of the year, right? Some beautiful color, and it just makes you travel to like a tropical place, right? It's such a beautiful, lovely, and yeah, you can find them online and you can find them in the store. So feel free to stop by.
We were not able to get all of the roots. You know, the roots want to grow up, and so we replanted. We got some of the extra ones to go down, but not all of them. They would break.
Yes, and I always suggest to work in wet. With orchids, you want the roots to be wet. wet, so they get a little bit more flexible. Instead of dry, they usually break more. And you know, if they break, it's okay. They will grow back. And
Okay.
also, covering all the roots, it's a good idea, but they tend to go out. They
Right,
tend to like go out looking for some other substrate to attach and colonize more space. So even though you try to stack them in, they will some way or another find its way out and spread like this. So
And that's
kind of
okay.
like, yeah, embrace the way that this look, because that's the way they want to look like. Yeah,
Got
they
it.
want to be out and kind of like breathing and free and wild. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, you got it.
It's funny, orchids are lovely,
Yes.
but I saw, just this year, I became aware of online a very unusual orchid called hanging naked men.
Yes.
It looks like,
Yeah, they're stunning.
looks like it says, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure it has an official name, but
Yes.
the common name is hanging.
Yeah, they come in
Men.
so many fun ways. Some of them have like monkey faces, and when you look at them, they're just honestly like looks just like a monkey face. There's some that looks like ducks, or like just like some bees, or like bumblebees. Oh, there's so many orchids. Are just
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
yeah, it's fun too. I'm totally into it, and I'm already collecting them, and yeah, they're pricey, but you know, it's so worth it. They're so beautiful. Yeah. Okay, I don't want to make this longer. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys know where we are in France and 44.
I've
And
been there.
I'm living very close to there.
Oh, nice. So we are always happy to help, and hopefully we will meet for another project next in a few more weeks.
Thank you,
So
JP. And we have another event coming up in September and another one scheduled in October with you guys. And
that's funny.
Hopefully not when I'm moving.
Super.
but,
Do you have the
Okay.
dates?
not right in front of me, Sherry, but we'll send out an invitation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Gonna be fun.
Okay.
And you know, the season is changing right in front of us, and there's always something fun to be doing in each season. So
So
Good.
cool.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Good to see you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everybody for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Avidor.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.